Assalamu alaikum, Hazoor.
Assalamu alaikum.
Hazoor, I ask first question, if time
it's
allows.
It's always in couples, you never...
Then Hazoor can permit me for others.
Of course. Yes, please.
As the system of voting by ballot on important matters during the political and religious meetings to know the majority opinion is modern, although the opinion was always sought during the time of the Holy Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam and Khilafat Rashida. I find no reference of expressing the opinion through the ballot paper during the above period. I shall therefore be grateful if Hazoor most kindly throw some light on this subject and also kindly advise us which system, either by ballot or show of hands, is preferable according to the teachings of Islam.
Right. Thank you. This ballot system is an invention of the Western system of democracy, but it is not very old. In fact, it took roots during the last 200-300 years. In Italy, in Europe first, as far as I remember, and it started in the religious institutions to begin with. Later on, about 200 years ago, in America, in American democracy, you also find reference of ballot system. And so the history of ballot system in Europe is not very old, very long. It only started 200 to 300, maximum 300 years ago. But voting, of course, was known to man from the times immemorial. Elections of some sorts were held everywhere in every civilization known to man. So, as far as the purpose of ballot, expressing one's opinion through ballot is concerned, the purpose is the same. There is no difference. People want to find out and to be sure as to the popular vote on certain subjects which are being discussed. But Islam, as I have explained to you, emphasized the role of expressing democratic opinions about 1400 years ago. Nowhere in the world the system of ballot or writing was already introduced, so Islam only emphasized on ascertainment of the true will of the people, not even by raising of hands. This is also something which started happening later on. In those days, the general consensus of opinion was held to be enough. And as far as the religious system introduced by the Holy Quran is concerned, this analogy between democracy and Islamic system of finding out opinion is extending the matter too far. They are similar, but not entirely the same. So let me first remove this one misunderstanding of yours. According to Islam, the founder of a religion is appointed directly by God. In a society which is given over to falsehood and lies. So a society which is already given over to falsehood and lies, which becomes predominantly false in its character and dishonest, no democratic system can run in that society. This is just a stupid dream that democracy can run in every society. It has a direct bearing upon the moral of a society. So if society is pure and has a stronger moral fiber and is true, generally speaking, then democracy can serve some purpose. Otherwise it is just a fraud upon the people, nothing more. So Islam is a religion of realities. What Islam speaks on this subject. I'll enlarge a little bit later on, but let me start with the beginning. A prophet is born, through whom the will of God is expressed. Now the person who is chosen for that expression is bound to be entirely true and trustworthy. Otherwise, he will not do justice to the message, and he will distort it before conveying it to the people. So that is why the founder of Islam, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, was known in Arabia much before he claimed to be a prophet to be Ameen and Siddiq and Saduq, which were the highest compliments paid by the Arabs around him to his honesty and his integrity and his trustworthiness. So a man is commissioned by God to rehabilitate the values of morality, and such man is true and such man is honest. So then he creates a society around him like a drop of yogurt builds yogurt around it when it's dropped in the milk. You know, it starts converting. Like daily you convert food into blood and such juices as are assimilable by you. So this is the process which has to be understood before you understand the democratic system of Islam. Once this society is created by the founder of a religion, who is directly commissioned by God, it is he who is the teacher. And wisdom, according to Islam, is directly coupled to fear of God and love of God. Wisdom is described in spiritual terms, not just cleverness or shrewdness, but true lasting wisdom is the wisdom which is born out of your fear of God, your consciousness of answerability, and your realization of the existence of a person to whom you will ultimately be answerable. So you cannot make a wrong move, you cannot make a false step. This is ultimate wisdom according to the definition of Islam. So then, when such a person is required to consult others, the right of decision making still lies with him. The consultation only is to gain more knowledge and to gain more angles to a question, to the angles of observation. So this is why in Islamic democracy on religious matters, the Holy Prophet ﷺ is addressed وَشَّاوِرْهُمْ فِي الْأَمْرِ فَإِذَا عَزَمْتَ فَتَوَكَّلْ عَلَى اللَّهِ. You must consult them, because you are not God. You must know other people's angles and points of view, but then decide yourself after listening to them. So there is no question of anybody raising hands and majority, being given the position of dictating terms to the Prophet. He listens to the voice, various angles, and when he is visioned to the whole situation, then he decides. Then the Holy Quran says, Tawakkal ala Allah. Then because you have decided in view of what you think should be the will of God, then you do not trust those who advise you. Trust Allah then. He would be with you. So this is the true Islamic democracy. So if you have this wrong conception that Rasulullah Kareem used to ask people to raise hands and so on, this is not true. This is why many a time during our consultative sessions like Majlis Shura here today, the Khulafa, sometimes put a question, listen to the advices, and do not put the matter to vote at all. Then they express their decision, okay, I've understood the matter, it's enough, this should be the course of action, and everybody agrees. So unanimity is born out of this system which finds no equal in the world. Now, later on, also raising of hands came to be born, and this was sort of acquired as a system of expression of will. Because sometimes the person who is consulting you, although he knows that the final authority of decision lies with him, he wants really to know on which side the majority lies. And he would like to sympathize with the majority sometimes because the matter is not as important. Sometimes there are matters where differences are, just delicately balanced differences. This could be right, that could be right. So in such cases, he does not have to express his own will every time. So this is why this practice took birth in Jamaat Ahmadiyya. People were asked to discuss an issue, debate it, and then ultimately they were asked to express their opinion. Sometimes, in fact, most often than not, the caliph of the time agreed with the majority opinion. Because generally, when such people are enlightened and trained, they also become wise. Their decision making is highly sharpened and enlightened. So most often than not, the majority vote is considered to be on the right side by the caliph. So that is why when I studied the history of Majlis Shura during the time when I was entrusted with the task of writing the biography of the second head of the Ahmadiyya community, I went through all the papers and I was surprised to find that during a khilafat of 52 years, he only had to disagree with the majority opinion a few times. While almost every year this Majlis Shura was called and the matters were discussed in detail, he almost always agreed with the majority. But rarely when he disagreed with the majority and enforced his own decision, within a matter of a month or so, or a short time, let's say, the entire Jamaat learned that his decision was right. If he had agreed with their advice, the Jamaat would have suffered. So this is the Islamic system. Raising of hands is not essential anyway, number one. But if you do it, then it's all right, but it's only just an expression, nothing more. Now, as far as raising of hand in the democracy in general is concerned, and its comparison with the ballot system is concerned, if you ask me, I would prefer the raising of hands far more to the ballot system, because it inculcates courage in you. Open expression of your will requires courage, boldness, and your capability to stand by truth without fear of what people think of you. So this is something very important. I've seen in our Majlis Shuras, some people have only one vote for themselves. They go on expressing themselves. They do not care whether people agree with them, and they're not ashamed of it at all. They are truthful people. They are trained in this. Whatever they believe, they have the courage to express. So why should they hide their vote? When you give the chance of hiding your vote, then you also promote cowardice. You also promote hypocrisy. And when the hypocrisy is not given a chance to exercise, then different things happen. So that is why recently in the Punjab, in the assembly, the People's Party of the Punjab wanted a ballot system, not the expression of will through raising of hands. But there it was not necessarily for the sake of having an honest opinion, but it was something else. What happened there was that there were many members of the Punjab Assembly who had accepted gratifications from the ruling party and the Chief Minister of the Punjab. and morally they were bound to take sides with them after accepting those gratifications. And also some members were weak enough, they could not face the patwaris and tehsildars, you know, the small officers of the district on the wrong, standing on their wrong side, because they thought if they opposed the government would have its vengeance upon them through this instrument of police officers and revenue officers and so on and so forth. So that is why People Party insisted that the board vote should be by ballot, so that nobody knows who is voting for whom. And they were banking on their opinion to be in their favor if it was a ballot system. So, although the system of openness required boldness, here the purpose was not that. The purpose was to confuse things and to give chance people to be dishonest to the people who had already got a contract with them. They would side with them. So this is democracy. Anyway, you can well say it, that to uphold the values of truth and honesty and fair play, the raising of hands is a much better system, unless, of course, it is misused, let's say, for making people act dishonestly, because otherwise if they don't raise their hands they will be caught, and the culprits will be caught and they will be punished. That is something which sometimes happens and this shows the human limitations. Even if a system is better, human beings with distorted minds can distort the systems and put it to misuse.
Jazakallah, Hazoor. I'll ask the other question some other time, Hazoor.
Thank you very much.
Because there may be some to ask.
Pardon?
There may be some other people to ask questions.
You see, as you used to tell me, sometimes you asked short questions and the answers are very lengthy. Sometimes you asked long questions and the answer is very short. This time you asked a long question with a long answer. Right?
Yes, Hazoor.
Good, thank you.
Jazakallah.